This episode has been brought to you by our friends over at CMB Law. If you find yourself in a tight spot and you need an attorney to trust, call Courtney over at CMB Law, 941-747-4440 or 941-725-9457. You can also visit her site at cmbjustice.com. cmbjustice.com. Again, that's Courtney at CMB Law. Tell them that Thomas Free Me sent you from the Thomas Free Me podcast show. Hey everybody, I just want to take a moment to thank all my subscribers and listeners that dedicate a little bit of time just to hear what I got to say. Thank you so much, but the struggle is real and it continues. Please spread awareness and do your part by making sure that you are subscribed and liking each of the episodes that you listen to. Share my episodes and spread awareness of my channel and what it is that I'm doing. These little things right here is what helps me grow and helps sponsorship come my way, as I am a struggling ex-con. I appreciate the support, the love, and thank you so much for tuning in. More to come.
Somebody that I know, and he asked me to come and meet with him, see if I could help him get a job where I'm working at. But the media says that I was an unemployed construction worker. I was building drill decks for offshore oil rigs at Van Linda Iron Works in West Palm Beach. Anyway, I get a phone call from this dude, and he asked to meet with me, so see if I can help him get a job where I'm working at, because he's in debt with some people that he needed to pay. Let me get back with you in a minute. So I call my wife, my son's mother, and tell her what I was planning on doing. She tells me, no, don't go over there. You know that guy ain't no good, this and that and the other. And I said, man, let me just see if I can help the dude, man. So I go meet with him. So we go to this little restaurant that he is right across the street from where he lives at. And we go in there, we order some beers and a little, not a big meal, just a small snacks, you know what I mean? In this little Spanish place.
Yeah.
I could tell that they're doing Zanny bars and cocaine for like 3 days in a row. So I order a beer and a little snack or whatever. He does the same thing. So I drink my beer and order another one, and I eat my food and I listen to what he's got to say and all this. So I'm done. I get up, I put my knife and fork on my plate, I push my chair in, and I go to the bathroom. When I come out of the bathroom, I see him, because the bathroom is right across from the doorway to the kitchen. And there's no door there, it's just a doorway. So I look in there, and I see him in the kitchen with these two people, and he's got a gun in. Well, I start selling him out, like cussing at him and telling him what's he doing, this, that, and the other. He's tripping and all this. So I said, he's not hearing me. He can hear me, but he's not listening,
So you think he's at that time? You say he's been up for 2 or 3 days, skitzed out on cocaine and Xannies, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I look to my right at when I see him with the gun, and I see that he's not listening to me. I look to my right, and the back door is there, propped open with a mop. And I look to my left at the front door, which is far away compared to the back door. So in my training, when a firearm is presented and you have no recourse, you got to leave. You got to go. So I followed my training, and I dipped out the back door. As soon as I get outside the back door, there are shots. Bomb, 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 bomb. I'm like, oh, man. So I dip. I go. I leave him there, and I go. And that's the whole extent of that episode right there. Now, a few days later, 2 days later, this was on a Saturday, and says he's outside my apartment building. And I was living at that time in an apartment on the Intercoastal. So I opened the door. Now, this dude just murked 3 people, you know what I'm saying? And he's at my house. I got 3 little kids in my house and my old lady. So I don't let him come in. I go outside the door, and I shut my door. And I see that he's got the gun on him. I'm like, man, you tripping. So we get into it right there in front of my house, and I take it from him. And I run to the end of my balcony, and I throw it into the water. I even told the police this. This is what happened. That's the truth. That's what happened. So then later on, I told him where the gun was at. But anyway, that's what happened. That's my extent. That's the extent of my culpability in that whole crime. That's it right there. That's all of it. That's as far as my culpability. I don't even consider that culpability. At best, my crime should have been accessory after the fact. At best.
Yeah.
But they found me guilty as if I did it, man.
So now let's get into that now. So what now in the aftermath of all of this, right? What transpires? How does all of this go from to you being convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder?
Okay, this dude, he tells his girlfriend, because he's staying with his girlfriend and her mom at the time, and he tells his girlfriend when it happened, right? And his girlfriend is she's hooked on crack. So now this is like a 7 days to the crime. They got an award, $25,000 for any information leading to an arrest. Well, his girlfriend's mom goes to the police, turns him in. While he's there, he gives a statement against me saying that I'm the one who committed the crime. So they come and get me. SWAT team comes to my apartment, crashes in my door, picks my kid up like he's a puppy, like by the scruff of his neck and shit, and lays him on the couch because he was laying on my chest. It's crazy, man. But that's what happened with that, and that's how I got mixed up in the whole thing. So when they bring me down there, I'm not saying nothing. I'm saying I don't know what you're talking about. So I wasn't doing anything. They could have piss tested the dude, man, and found out that what I was saying was true. They could have tested the whole scenario that I gave them, man, but they didn't do any of that. They didn't even go in the bathroom and get fingerprint, hair sample. I'm a hairy dude, bro. I know that I dropped.
You're breaking up on me pretty bad.
Their goal was to keep the death from. They twisted the whole story about that. I wasn't even in Florida full 3 weeks, man. I got called by Van Linda Ironworks to come to Florida to do a job, for a job down here. I was making almost $27 an hour, man, in 2002. And there's the newspaper, the media, the police is telling the media that we're both unemployed construction workers, man. I wasn't unemployed. I was employed before I even came to Florida. I was only in Florida for 3 weeks when the crime happened.
Yeah, that's what the newspaper said, that you guys were all unemployed, construction workers.
And my son's mom, at that time, she was a CNA. He was working at St. Mary's Hospital. So it ain't like we needed to rob that place for $150, you know what I mean? And that's another part of it, too. The robbery part of it didn't even happen. There was no robbery. They found more money in the place than what was even supposed to be there. It's crazy, man.
What was your co-defendant's name?
Randell Leighty.
And what made you think? What made you think that he tripped out that day on? I mean, what did he trip out on? So he was high for 3 days on Xannies and cocaine, which I know with personal experience, like Xanax bars will make you flip out.
I grew up in West Palm Beach. Yeah, I grew up in West Palm, back and forth from Ohio. I'm from Ohio, but I grew up pretty much in West Beach. A combat veteran from Iraq. Government certified welder. Got an associate's degree in structural engineering. Now serving a life sentence for a crime I didn't commit. And
now they convicted you of 3 first-degree murders.
19 years.
So, how you were in the first Iraq War, right? And how long did you serve in the military?
4 years.
And then you came back from the military. And what issues did you have here in America coming back as a returning citizen from the military?
Man, I try not to do anything like that. I don't try to put any negative aspects on it because people don't really understand. I went over there as a kid, man. I turned 19 and 20 in Iraq. I had 2 birthdays and 2 Christmases over there. I was just a kid, man, So I try not to put any negative aspects on it because people just don't get it, But it's I came back with a hunger kind of, for like I was an adrenaline junkie when I came home, man. Like I just wanted to do, I don't know, crazy stuff. I like skydiving, surfing, motocross. I like, if it's fast and scary, I liked it,
You saw action over there in Iraq when you were over there?
Definitely.
So what kind of help was there for you when you came home to kind of subside these urges that you were having?
I'm not real sure because I didn't seek anything from the VA. I didn't seek anything from them. Look for any kind of help from them because I wasn't even sure that I wasn't sure of anything. You know what I mean? I just had this stuff going on in my mind. Like I'm talking to my girl now, one of my ex-girlfriends that I'm talking to now. Like we talk about things now about how I was then. And she's like, why was that going on like that? And I said, man, I had this war going on in my mind. It's like my mind was going against me, I know that doesn't make much sense, bro, but it's like a spiritual thing, I guess, I wanted to be one way, but I was completely way. My mind wouldn't accept what I wanted, you know? I know that doesn't make sense, man, but that's kind of how it feels.
Well, it makes sense to anybody that's gone through that. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that understand exactly what it is that you're saying. So
I mean, I was just trying to feed that.
So now you've been convicted of this stuff, these three homicides, first degree murder, and from what I've read, that it said something about without a shooter, like they don't know who the shooter is. So it's like they convicted. So it's like they convicted both of you guys for the crime.
Exactly. Now let me explain a little bit about that. See, we had a joint trial with separate juries. He had his own jury, and I had my own jury. But both juries was in the courtroom hearing the same evidence simultaneously, and then they both come back with. That's impossible because my jury came out 3 times with special questions to the court about the jury instructions. So how could my jury come up with the equal verdict that his jury came? One way that could happen if they were coached. That could happen.
Did the jury deliberate together?
They came back with identical verdicts. His jury said that he didn't possess. No, they had separate deliberation rooms. Supposedly.
You're breaking up pretty bad on me again. So, but you said.
The jury came out 3 times with special questions in court.
Do you remember what those questions were?
It was about the jury instructions. They wanted to know if they could find me guilty of a lesser included offense that's not on the verdict form. And the judge said, I can't answer that question. Just follow the instructions that you were given. And one of the last instruction that the jury was given was, if you find that the defendant carried a firearm during the course of committing the robbery, you should find him guilty of robbery with a firearm. However, if you find that the defendant did not carry a firearm during the course of committing the robbery but did commit robbery, you should find him guilty only of robbery. So, my jury found me guilty as charged in the indictment to guilty of robbery with a firearm, but then they marked, oh, I didn't possess a firearm, no, I didn't possess a firearm, and no, I didn't cause bodily harm or death with a firearm. That crime does not exist. It's either robbery with a firearm or simple robbery. You can't be found guilty of robbery with a firearm with no firearm. You see what I mean?
Right. Of course.
That crime doesn't exist.
But they used to.
Judgment order,
They used to say that you couldn't be found guilty of murder without a body.
Exactly, and see that's the whole thing about the felony murder law. That's why the UK abolished it. It started in the UK in the late 1700s with Magna Carta, but all of UK abolished it. Canada abolished it. Ireland and Scotland abolished it. New Zealand abolished it. 40 states in the United States abolished it because it's unconstitutional. You can be found guilty of a crime you didn't commit. It's unconstitutional, man.
So where do you stand at now? What are you looking at now?
Man, I'm hoping that something happens with these laws and that people are paying attention, because there's judges and prosecutors across the nation saying that life without parole is worse than the death penalty. It's inhumane and it's torture. And felony murder. California released 1,000 prisoners that had life sentences under the felony murder law because felony murder is unconstitutional. These dudes in Pennsylvania, they got a lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania. The prisoners got a lawsuit against the state of Pennsylvania because life without parole is unconstitutional. And they give me life without parole. Four natural life sentences for crimes that they know that I had no participation in. And how do they know? Because I took that polygraph test 3 times. They knew before my trial that I had no participation in it.
And you passed all 3 times?
All identical results on all 3 tests. That's impossible if you're telling a lie.
Amen.
Now you can pass it 3 times, but you're not going to pass it with identical results 3 times if you're telling a lie.
So what evidence did they find you guilty of? What is it that they're saying that the jury found you guilty of?
So that's the whole thing. That's another part of it. The sentencing order, you should have a copy of that too.
I do.
The sentencing order, the judge says this entire case was wholly circumstantial, and none of the evidence presented was refuted. He's saying a few things right there. The whole case is circumstantial. So So there's no physical evidence to pinpoint any person. And then he's saying if the case has been unrefuted. He's saying my lawyers didn't even do their job to try to refute the case. You see what I mean?
Yeah. And what did
It's a sham, bro.
and what did the appellate court say to all of this?
They PCA'd me on everything, man. They procure me from everything. They denied me with no opinion because they know if they give me an opinion on any of the stuff that I filed, I'm going to the higher court and I'm going home. So they're blocking me from due process. It's a due process violation, really is what it is. They're violating that constitutional right by allowing me to go to the next court up. And they can do that just by PCAing me, giving me no opinion. See, they can break the laws on every corner, but if you break the law on this corner, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. And here's a scenario. Let me run this by you real quick. If you move into a house and you don't like your neighbor for whatever reason, all you got to do is kick in your own front door, bite your lip and make it bleed, and throw your TV on the ground and say your neighbor came over and assaulted you. Your neighbor's going to prison for the rest of his life. No evidence, no proof, no witnesses. All it takes is you saying that he did that.
Yeah, me and a family member.
That's crazy, bro. You don't need evidence. You don't need witnesses. Why? Why is that? Because
this is
a business, man.
Well, yeah, and this is what the gentleman Tanawa and I were discussing as far as these crimes as what you just said is when an indictment is brought forth against somebody, it's the state sitting in front of this grand jury, this secret grand jury that nobody knows who they are, and they sit in front of these people and say whatever they want to say in order to get that indictment. There's no evidence produced. It's all hearsay for the most part. It's just charges that the state is bringing forth against this individual, and that's it. And that in itself is unconstitutional because there's an order going on, there's a process going on about me that I am completely unaware about. There are charges being brought against me that I am not allowed to defend against until trial, and that's not right. I should be privy, me and my attorney should be privy to that grand jury to know what's being brought forth, and we can argue at that point. That'll stop a lot of indictments right there.
Yeah. See, there's this rule. It's called the rule of construction. It's 775021 Florida statute. It defines separate offenses, man. Okay. In that rule, it says that if one statute is contradictory to another statute charged, then neither of those charges can be brought forth. You see what I mean? Well, in mine, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 different statutes in my indictment on each count. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And on the murder statutes, it's got felony murder and premeditated murder. So my lawyers argued against that in my trial, saying that they're running on the verdict form. They're running together. There's no way of knowing how my jury finds me guilty, whether it's premeditated murder or felony murder. And the judge overruled the objection and said, let it stay the way it is. The defendant can argue that on appeal. Bro, I got the transcript. I've literally got it right here in front of me right now. The judge says, I understand, but I'm going to overrule your objection. The defendant Johnson can argue that on appeal. That's abuse of discretion right there, man. He says, I understand, but I'm going to overrule.
Mm-hmm.
They're blending both types of first-degree murder together. And what happened was, I was charged in my indictment with premeditated and felony murder, but nowhere in my trial was premeditated murder mentioned. It was felony murder the whole trip because of the robbery, which didn't happen. They used the robbery so they could convict both him and me. For all the way down the line, all 3 murders and the robbery. Because if it's felony murder, then I can be found guilty also because a felony was committed. But there was no robbery. My lawyers proved that there was no robbery during the trial. There was more money found in a restaurant than what was supposed to be there.
And you're charged with the robbery as well, too, right? So we were getting into the robbery, and you were talking about how they found you guilty of the robbery charge as well.
Oh yeah. Not only was I found guilty of robbery with a firearm after my jury said no to all the firearm questions, possession, discharge, bodily harm or death, they said no to all of that. On my judgment order, I was found guilty of robbery with a firearm, and I was enhanced to a life sentence on that charge because of possessing and discharging a firearm that I didn't have. So the court overruled the jury's recommendation on the verdict form and went ahead and did whatever they wanted to do anyway.
The judge overruled. No, that's...
He overrode. Like, the jury made a recommendation, and the court didn't even follow it.
That's very, very rare. That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you look at the judgment order, you'll see on count 4 it says robbery with a firearm, 81213, and 775087. The 775087 is the enhancement statute. They enhanced me because of possessing and use of a firearm during the commission of a felony. My jury on the verdict form says no to all the firearm charges. So I cannot be found guilty of robbery with a firearm and enhanced because of the firearm that I didn't have.
I mean, I would agree with that, I would think.
Yeah. And it's on there. The last page of my verdict form, it says, guilty of robbery with a firearm as charged in the indictment. We find that the defendant, Lloyd Thomas Johnson, actually possessed the firearm. No. We find that the defendant, Lloyd Thomas Johnson, discharged the firearm. No. We find that as a result of the discharge of the firearm by the defendant, Lloyd Thomas Johnson, death or great bodily harm was inflicted. No. So I didn't possess a gun, I didn't discharge a gun, and I didn't cause bodily harm or death with a gun. So I cannot be found guilty of robbery with a firearm and enhanced to life because of the firearm. And still the court ignores it.
Again, I mean, you know, it's stories, it's these type of stories, man, that I want the public to hear and understand of how, like you say, they just do whatever they want to do.
Here, let me read this from a Florida Supreme Court case, John Conley Jr. This is an excerpt from his case, and it's about the enhancement. It says, before a trial court may enhance a defendant's sentence for use of a firearm, the jury must make a finding that the defendant committed the crime while using a firearm. Now listen to this language. Either by finding him guilty of a crime which involved a firearm, or by answering a specific question on a special verdict form indicating the firearm. So this court that I went to, they chose a special verdict form with specific questions about the firearm, right? So they can't go by the other way of finding me guilty because of a crime that involved the firearm. They can't use both. They have to use either this one or that one. Do you remember the language I used?
Yep.
That it says it's either by or. It doesn't say and or both. No. It says either by this one or that one. They chose the verdict form. My jury said no to the firearm. So you cannot find me guilty of robbery with a firearm and enhance me to life because of the firearm when my jury said I didn't have it.
But yet they did.
They did anyway.
So where do you stand at legally now? Do you have anything in? Do you have a habeas in? Do you have anything in the court?
I don't have anything in the court now because every time I file to the trial court, they shoot it down, and then I file it to the appellate court, and they PCA it. Everything in Palm Beach is political. One judge is not going to go against another judge because they play golf together and drink beer together, you know?
What is the judge's name?
My trial judge was RAPP, R-A-P-P.
I've heard of that name.
But the judge I have now, yeah, he's not cool, man. As a matter of fact, his license was Choose Life. I swear to God, that's what it was, man. And I'm not sure who the judge is now over that division. I haven't filed anything in like a year. Every time I file, man, they just shoot me down, bro. And I got them black and white, man. I'm not making this stuff up, man. You got copies of it.
Has there been any attempts to have your legal work taken from you?
What do you mean by officers?
Yeah, by the guards there in the institution.
Nah, I mean, it wouldn't do them no good. I've got copies everywhere, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lloyd, I mean, this is a hell of a story, man. Again, here's another story coming out of Florida of just the courts doing what they want to do. I mean, to override a jury's, suggestion And a jury's finding like that is crazy to me. Is crazy to me. And then to find both of you guys guilty for first degree murder, for the murder, it's just, it doesn't, the jury said that you had no interactions with the gun whatsoever, but yet you're sitting in there on convicted of 3 felony murder, first degree murder charges of a robbery shooting. None of it makes sense.
None of it makes sense. It's not logical at all, man. But it was okay to send me as a kid to Iraq to go kill for the country. That was okay. But you're going to put me in prison for murders you know I didn't commit. That doesn't make any sense to me, man.
Did you have any dealings over in Iraq with anybody that, you know, any high officers, ranking officers, or political figures that may have...
No, not like that. Nothing like that. You know, soldiers always argue with their lieutenant or their captain about orders or whatever, but it was never nothing like that. No, nothing too serious, man. And I was ordered to fire into non-targets and everything, like schools, mosques, hospitals. Those are all non-target target facilities, man. And we was ordered to fire into them. But that's okay. That's okay. But you're gonna put me in prison for murders you know I didn't commit. But it's okay for me to go shoot up a school, or shoot up a hospital, or a mosque where people are praying. That's terrorism, brother.
Well, this is why I say I don't negotiate with terrorists, my friend. I know, and this is why they ostracise us the way that they do, because they know that we know the truth.
Man, I just watched the movie last night, as a matter of fact, about that case, about that whole thing. It's called Official Secrets. Man, that movie's something else, man. It enlightened me to a bunch of stuff. That one reporter in Britain, she exposed all of that. She exposed it before the war even happened. Man, that's crazy to me, man. That just blew my mind last night, man. I got goosebumps right now just thinking about that.
What was the name of the movie?
Official Secrets.
Where's that on?
But I guess it's on like Netflix or FC Movies or something like that. But that was crazy, man. It enlightened me to a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of. Yet all of that was exposed before the war even happened, man. And they still went ahead with the war. That shows you what our country is about, bro. And see, right now, I'm in a veterans group right here at this institution. I've been in the veterans group my whole time I've been in prison. But I don't salute the flag or pledge my allegiance anymore, man, because they got so much shit on the flag now, they're covering up the blood that's on it, you know?
Yeah.
They lowered the flag for the shootings of the people at Pulse nightclub. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel bad for those people, whether they're gay or not, I don't care. But you're going to lower the flag for the homosexuals that was killed at the Pulse nightclub, but a week later, 8 active duty soldiers in Fort Hood died in a flood, and you don't lower the flag for them. That blew my mind, bro. I snapped. And then a year after that, Nelson Mandela dies. He's not even a United States citizen, and they lowered the flag for him. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a powerful dude. He's done a lot of good things for this world. I understand that. But you're violating the rules in the honor of the flag by doing that. This dude's not even a citizen of the United States. But you don't lower the flag for the active duty soldiers who are dying for this country. That bothers me.
Well, again, these are facts that Americans need to wake up and say. You know, we hear that we're supposed to respect the flag and all of these things, but really, what is the representation of that flag?
Exactly.
You got men and women overseas that are dying over a belief for this flag that their own government isn't even representing themselves. You know, you got America coming down on Colin Kaepernick for kneeling against this flag, without even really understanding the true history behind what that flag represents. And we're not talking about the men and women that have sacrificed their lives for that flag. We're talking about the true representation of what that flag is, what's behind it, the lies, the deceit, the secrecy, the power, you know, all of the conspiracies.
Yeah, our government is a bully, man.
We don't understand that. Yeah, we don't understand that until we get outside the country and we start seeing how hated we are in so many other countries.
Exactly.
But we're told by our own government that we're the saviors of the world. We're the leaders of democracy. We're the trendsetters, and that we're battling evil to make sure that it don't come into the confines of the United States. But yet, the United States, when you do your history, has been one of the leading proponents of a lot of the evil that's been going on in our world.
Yeah, they're instigators of it in some cases, man. They're instigators of the conflicts. They start conflicts because the economy is bad. What makes the economy good? War. So let's start a war. Come on, man. People die in war, man. But those murders are okay. Come on, man.
Well, all you have to do is research Henry Ford in World War II and what he was doing, what he was producing for all the war machines back then.
Yeah, on both sides.
The Rockefellers, all of them. So again, yeah, I mean, this is business. War is a business. Prison is a business.
Yep. Absolutely, especially in Florida. Yep. Especially in Florida. It's not crop holders anymore, it's shareholders now, man. It's just slavery in a different form.
My listeners are starting to hear that from a lot of different people.
Yeah, man, it's crazy down here, man.
Slavery never ended. Redlining never ended. Redlining never ended. Slavery never ended. It just took on a different form.
Right. The Florida Department of Corrections was instituted in 1868, 2 years after Abraham Lincoln
emancipated the slaves.
About the emancipation of Congress. Yeah. 2 years. Why? Because all the rich were bitching that they're slaves anymore. They had to do the work themselves. What could they do? How could they come up with something to work the slaves back legally for the corrections?
Yeah.
They got arrested. They arrested people for no crime and put them in life for no crime. Free slavery, man.
Yeah, peonage.
Yeah, that's on. You can look that up on Society First. They got the whole thing about the Department of Corrections, man. A buddy of mine wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are facts. I mean, again, it's historical facts, man. It's historical facts.
And it's all in the books, man. It's all in the books, buddy, man. There's no lying. There's nobody's lying. It's all in the books. It's still there, man.
Well, this is what I'm trying to do is just educate people on the truth and understand what is happening to our community so that we can come together and put a stop to it. We can start welcoming people that are coming home from prison, helping them get back reacclimated into society by finding them jobs, make sure that they don't end up on the street or back into crimes, things of that nature. And it's just going to be a helping hand throughout our country of just unity, of us coming together and protecting one another, because
Absolutely.
people have to wake up, man. These people that are still brainwashed, thinking that the government is for you and that they're your protection and that they care for you and that they're protecting all of us. It's not true. They're using us. It's just one big hamster wheel.
That's the lie that they're using, man. They're not for us. They're totally against us, man. I want to just clarify a little bit if I can, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound like I'm just whining and saying I'm this perfect innocent guy. No, man. What I'm guilty of is throwing the firearm in the intercoastal 3 days after the crime. I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of not calling the cops on this dude when the crime happened. I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of leaving the scene of the crime and not calling the cops. I'm guilty of not calling the cops after that, and I'm guilty of throwing the gun in the water. I'm guilty of that. At best, that's accessory after the fact. I am not guilty of first-degree murder with a firearm, and I'm not guilty of robbery with a firearm. I did not commit those acts. I did not help him commit those acts. I did not help him plan it, perpetrate it, none of that. I'm guilty of what I'm guilty of, and I stand on that. In these last 19 years, I wouldn't try to give back all the knowledge and understanding that I gained in those 19 years, man. And it's cost me my parents. My kids have grown up.
You're breaking up on me, Mikado. So what do you want So what do you want the people to know? What can they do? What can people do? How can they help?
Man, if there's anything they can do, man, I gave it all to you right there. But if there's anything that they can do, I'm willing to accept some help, man. Like I said, man, when my parents died, I barely have any contact with anyone. The only person in my family that I talk to really is my oldest niece. And, I mean, she does what she can for me, but she's got her own kids and her own family to take care of, man. So there's not a lot she can do for me but give me some moral support, make phone calls for me or whatever the case may be. I struggle to get the things that these tools that I got right here, like my tablet and Wi-Fi and all that, man, that's over with now for me, man. I've used it to the best I could, man, to research and do what I'm doing right now. I mean, that's the whole reason I got it was for this. I'm not going to stop fighting for my life, man. If I don't fight for me, who's going to fight for me?
That's no question. But we're gonna fight for you, man. You're in the criminal justice network now. I'm gonna establish a folder for you, so you're not gonna be forgotten. You know what I mean? And we're gonna start bringing some awareness to this case, man. And hopefully we can get an attorney pro bono to say, you know what? Let me take a look at that legal work and see what you got. Let's see what we can do. So if there's anybody out there that would like to take a look at his case, I do have the legal work that was sent to me. I don't think it's all of it. I'm sure you have all of it, right? So the legal work is there, and let's see what we can do, man. And again, just pay attention, man, to what these people are saying and what's happening to our children. This is a combat veteran. This is a man that dedicated and sacrificed his life for our freedom, and now he's sitting in prison on 3 life sentences that he's claiming that he had no access to. The jury, 4 with the robbery, right? So, and the jury found that he had no belongings with the gun, but yet he's still sitting in there for the murder and the robbery. So something's not right. And this again is just another case of this, man. It's so disheartening, disgusting, and overwhelming.
Yeah, that newspaper article that you got a copy of from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, it says in a strange twist of law, neither defendant was found guilty by their jury of possessing and discharging a firearm. Well, one of the statutes that they charged us under was the principal theory. The only way you can be a principal to a crime is if the other person is the actual perpetrator of the crime. Well, in my case, there is no actual perpetrator of the crime. We were both found not guilty of possessing and discharging a firearm. See, how does that work? There's no way for that to work, and that's one of the things I told you about the contradictory statutes. If one statute contradicts the other, then neither of the statutes can be used.
Right.
Well, the principal statute contradicts the murder and the robbery charges, because in order to be found guilty as a principal, the other person has to be found guilty of actually perpetrating the crime. Or somebody does. But in my case, nobody was. And the newspaper article says, in a strange twist of law. A strange twist of law? You can't twist the law, man. The legislator's intent, the legislature has specific, they use specific language for a reason. That's the intent of the legislature, man. They use specific language, so you can't twist it.
Yeah, I put the newspaper article on Facebook.
Isn't that crazy, man?
It is.
And they get away with this, man. Because once we're in here, that's it. We're just dollar signs now, man.
And the people don't pay attention. All they look at is another criminal is in prison. The people do not pay attention.
Yeah, they listen to what they're told on the news, man. That shit is a lie. Don't even watch the news, man, unless you're watching the weather, and you can't even believe that shit.
These are facts. It's a tool for propaganda.
Donald Trump wouldn't lie, man. They lie, man. The media lies, man. They get paid to say what they say.
Absolutely. They need a story. They need a headline. If you think about it, this is what they've been doing ever since headlines came out. The news came out was who had the bigger headline, the more captive headline. You know,
exactly.
It was just all about grabbing people's attention for sales of newspapers at the time, and all that did was just transition into watch time hours for their broadcast.
Exactly. The media, man, you don't see nothing. You don't see no good news. You don't see this guy helped this kid that was crippled. You don't see that. You don't see nothing good. All you see is bad things. Guys getting shot, breaking in stores, whatever, selling drugs. That's all you see, because that's what people want to hear. That they want to hear that their neighborhoods are being taken care of by the police, but it's all lies, man.
It is.
Now, don't get me wrong, man. We need police officers. We need the court system. We need the prison system. We need those things, but we need them to be run properly, the way they're supposed to be, and the way they're intended to be.
Well,
through some back alley
the reason why we need that stuff now is because that system has been designed. I mean, we couldn't just cut off policing and things of that nature tomorrow. We couldn't defund the police and just go, because we understand the domino effect from the 300-400 years of this establishment that's been put in place.
Exactly.
But
That's what I meant. Exactly.
my message is that if all of us was just to go out and be good people, we have bad days. You get into a fist fight, whatever, you apologize, whatever, and keep it pushing. That's how it was back in the day. You got into a fight, the cop would just come tell people, you okay, go home. If a cop caught you drunk, if he caught you drunk somewhere, he would take you home. Where do you live? Let me get you home. You know what I mean? But now it's all about arrests. They are looking to arrest. Some of the craziest shit I've ever heard is if me and you got into a fight and neither one of us pressed charges against each other, the state could still come in and charge me.
Yeah, both of you going to jail still. Because why? Because there's money. There's dollars, man. There's dollars, man.
They're just trying to get us in the system. They want all of us convicted felons, man.
Yep.
Convicted
I
felons.
didn't even take the shots, man.
Convicted felons aren't allowed to own guns. We're not allowed to vote. That's all they need is all of us to be convicted felons, and they're doing it little at a time.
Yep.
You don't even have to go to jail. You can catch a felony and they'll tell you just plea out. Just plea out to a year probation. You don't even have to worry about it. But guess what? You're a convicted felon.
Yeah, that's the trap, man. Yep. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you this part. The reason why, one of the reasons why, on my robbery with a firearm charge. The judge asked the prosecutor, what's the maximum sentence that could be entered under that? And the prosecutor said that would be a life sentence, Your Honor. And the judge says, how do you come up with that? The jury said no to possession, no to discharge, no to bodily harm and death with the firearm. How do you come up with life? And the prosecutor says, I tripled his score for prior capital felonies, for the 3 prior capital felonies. He tripled my score because of the 3 first-degree murder charges. It's all one criminal episode. It's not prior capital felonies. It's all for the same crime.
Right.
So the prosecutor tripled my score on the robbery because of the 3 first-degree murders, saying that they were prior capital felonies. I would have been in prison for life if I had prior capital felonies. You see?
Yeah, so what you're saying is, and I've seen that as well, where they'll get somebody to plea out to a charge, right, without telling them that they're going to enhance him on another charge to the cop that he just made. So yeah, so what you're saying for people to understand is that what the way that he got scored out to life under the robbery is that they already scored him under the 3 capital murder charges, which he hasn't even been convicted of yet.
Exactly. They tripled my points for the 3 murders that I hadn't even been convicted on yet. That's some back alley bullshit, man. They're going around the corner on people. When you're going into court, you don't have any understanding of that.
Of course not.
But then when you come to prison, they want you to learn all of that. You got a year to learn what those lawyers had to learn for 12 years or 8 years or whatever it was for them to become a lawyer. You got a year.
And this is what we say, and for those that don't believe it, I mean, we watched it. It happened on a national scale with Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, whether you agree with it or not, the fact is that he was put in prison unconstitutionally. And this is why they had to release him. And this is what they do. And this is what we say. We say this all the time, that they're going to put you in prison. They want you to beat it on appeal. And a lot of times you may beat it on appeal. But guess what? They got 5 years of your life already. You see what I'm saying? And all your money.
Yeah, they robbed him, man. They simply robbed him, man.
So the prosecutors know that these charges are stacked. They know what they're doing. But the bottom line is, you know what? We got them off the street for 3 or 4 years. We got them off for 5 years. So even though that their sentence was overturned, we still did our job.
Well, they got 19 out of me, man. 19 straight calendar years, man. And I'm not done. I'm not going to stop fighting, man. I'm coming at them from every angle that I can, man.
You have no choice. You're an innocent man in prison.
I don't even like using that term innocent, man, because I'm not. I'm not innocent. I'm not guilty of the crimes that I'm in prison for, but I'm not innocent. I'm not innocent in life. I'm innocent of the crime, yes, but I'm not innocent in life. And so I'm paying for that, maybe, paying for other things. That's cool, I'm all right with that. But I'm not guilty of the shit I'm in prison for, and I'm not all right with that.
Right. Well said, my friend. Well, rest easy, man, and have the happiest new year you can, man. And I know, this is just another calendar down. We didn't care about Christmas and none of that stuff. The most exciting thing for me when these holidays came around was the fact that it was the end of a year and starting another one.
Yeah.
What is this year gonna bring? Well, I can tell you this: it's gonna bring the criminal justice network, and it's gonna bring somebody now that is gaining a lot of traction and notoriety as being a criminal justice fighter. I'm about truth. And I'm just about bringing awareness to cases like yours nationwide where the people can hear of the atrocities that the government is doing to our communities.
Man, I appreciate you too, man. For real, bro. I appreciate you. Thank you a lot, man. You knew how, you heard the trepidation in my voice when I first talked to you, man. I was nervous, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But I'm glad that God sent me to you, man. So you're a blessing, bro. Believe that, man.
We're all blessings. We're all blessings, and we all deserve to live our lives the way that we came here to live, and not feed anybody's agenda. I'm not here to feed anybody's agenda. My life is my life, So that's what it's about, I couldn't be a creature of God if I looked at any of his creations any different from one or the other, so.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Each one of us is an individual representation of God, bro.
I don't understand where the hatred for each other comes from, man. It's baffling to me.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing about our government. Even on a smaller scale, in prison, the system wants us to be at each other's necks, because if we are, we're not paying attention to them. So if we're at each other's necks, they're sliding right past us doing the slimy shit that they're doing. That's what they want. That's why they feed racism and all that other stuff on TV, on the news, and all that stuff, man, in prison. That's all. Everybody down here's got a chip on their shoulder, man. And we're at each other's necks instead of going against the real enemy, which is the system.
Yeah. Well, this is why, again, I'm trying to bring unity. It's kind of like Hood Tales. You know what I'm saying? Remember the dude from the hood, man, that would come and steal all your shit, and then he'd be the first one to come and try to help you find it. And be like he's the nicest person in the world, and he's so empathetic to you getting your stuff stolen. The government is the same way. They create this animosity, they create this oppression, they create all of this violence, and then they come in like they're the pacifier, like they're coming in as okay, big brother's coming in, and we're gonna handle the situation now. Motherfuckers, you created this shit.
All right, man. Same thing with drugs, man. They introduced crack cocaine to the streets, and then Ronald Reagan comes with war on drugs. Come on, man. Stop the badness.
Rick Ross out of California.
Yep. Powerful dude, bro. Powerful dude, man. Good heart.
Yeah, I did time with him. I was with him.
Oh, yeah?
I did.
That's a good dude, man. He didn't give up either, man.
I'm trying to get an interview with him now, man, but I think they got him shook.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, because he knows too much about people in the government, bro. He was serving for them.
He was dealing strictly with the CIA.
Absolutely. And see, that's the slimy shit that I don't like, man. And the government is fucked up, bro. Somebody's gotta hear this and see this, and not just me. It's not just me. I'm just a grain of sand, bro. I'm just a grain of sand, but there's a whole beach of us, though.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. I never want to lose sight of the victims, in all of these cases when I bring them forth, because people have lost their lives. But the simple fact of it is that no man or woman should have to do the time of taking somebody's life if they weren't responsible for taking that person's life. That's that's something that's very egregious. You know what I mean? I mean, that's serious stuff, man, that a person has to live through. You know, you're sitting in prison accused of this here, and as you said, your family's ostracized you. You're looking like you're a 3-time, you know, murdering person, and it's not, man. And I don't know how your conscience deals with that.
Yeah, it's hard, bro. And the victims, man, I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to talk about that too. Those people are on my mind, bro. When I go to sleep at night, and when I wake up every day of my life, man. Not just them, not just that loss, which was horrible, but the loss of my mom and my dad. Man, the loss of love and affection from my family. That's the real prison. You know what I mean? It's those weights that are in my backpack. That's the prison, man.
Absolutely.
It's not the bars and the concrete blocks. That's not the prison that I'm in. The prison that I'm in is the loss of love, the loss of life. And so all of those deaths are on top of the ones that I've been carrying with me since the 90s, man. You know what I mean?
If you was to describe how you feel in one word, what would it be? As a human being now, as a human being trapped in the position that you are, what would you describe?
I would say dejected. Yeah, dejected, man.
A dejected human being.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Man, I feel like sometimes, you know where I'm at. I'm surrounded by people 24/7, but I feel like I'm on an inner tube hundreds of miles out in the ocean by myself. It's that loneliness. I can't even describe the way that feels. It's that type of loneliness. But I'm surrounded by people 24/7. You know, and the only thing that keeps me company is the voices of the dead people. Man, that's crazy. I don't even tell people that, man. That's crazy to me, man.
I understand, partner. I understand, man. Well, just maintain that strength, homie. Just know that you do have people out here that are that has your name on their mind, and you know, life is better teachers than us, man. Like I tell people, you know, when people say that I don't understand, and there's many things I don't understand, and at the end of the day, I just have to say life is a better teacher than me. You know, so it's just
Absolutely.
What are you teaching me? You know, what am I supposed to learn from this here? So it's just waking up each day with a new lesson, man. So just keep that mindset. And like you said, it's not the bars, it's not the walls, it's your own thoughts, you know, that is keeping you in that certain prison. So
yeah, there's no things, nothing's bad. You know, like Jesus is saying, man, it's all good. There's nothing bad. The things that we look at as bad is just lessons, like you were saying. But it's all to the good, though, because the lesson is going to give you something in the end. There's opportunity in chaos, man.
Amen, brother. That's strength. That's strength. Well, take care of yourself, man, and just keep in touch as much as you can, you know, and we'll keep in touch and we'll figure something out, partner.
All right, man. Thank you, man.
Absolutely, and I'll get this out as soon as I can.
All right, let the world know I love them, man.
We love you too, homie.
All right, bro. Peace.
Peace.